In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro denounced the media campaign being waged by the national and international extreme right wing against the country. The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas requested the International Court of Justice to investigate the use of Palestinian civilians as human shields by the Israeli army. And in Uganda, authorities reported 26 dead and 39 missing after the recent collapse of a landfill in Kampala. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro denounced the media campaign being waged by the national and international extreme right wing against the country. During the inauguration of the Ludovico Silva Integral Diagnostic Center in Caracas, the Venezuelan head of state denounced that the international media have been in charge of spreading false information about the events of July 29th and 30th after the presidential elections in the country. In this sense, the Venezuelan president pointed out that agencies and media speak on protest in the country when in reality there were an attempt coup d'etat. Likewise, the Venezuelan head of state questioned the double standards of the social networks that have censored their accounts, but on the 29th and 30th allowed the transmission and broadcasting of violent scenarios in the country. President Maduro denounced censorship in social networks and pointed out their morality in transmitting the events of July 29th and 30th.
Recorded and it was broadcast live on TikTok. TikTok banned my account before yesterday because they said that I was broadcasting a scene with violent scene, and through which media they broadcast the violence. It was not through TikTok, it was live. I took my phone and I went into my account, TikTok account, when all the other accounts, you know, when they send their messages, out of 10 accounts, 8 were live and direct, and I was looking at it. I was telling you, look, you have to go to the street, you know, they're trying to burn down that. Please go there, alert the popular powers, the police should go there. TikTok was broadcasting live. All the evidence that we have were provided by TikTok, the criminals, because they were trained, they were told to transmit, to broadcast all the violence actions live and direct, so to generate terror in the country, so that the people inhibited themselves and to go out to defend theirs.
Venezuelan National Assembly begins on Wednesday a public consultation process across the country on a bill against fascism, which seeks to protect the population from the violence promoted by the extreme right. The bill was presented last April to the National Assembly by Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez and passed its first reading by a qualified majority. The purpose of the law is to establish the means and procedures of preserve peaceful coexistence, public tranquility, democratic exercise, and the recognition of diversity and tolerance. The norm has a chapter dedicated to social media, described in the law as a new machinery designed to promote hate and violence over tolerance, love, and coexistence. After the popular consultation, the bill will be sent back to Parliament for a final approval and its immediate implementation. On Wednesday, the government of Venezuela rejected the criticisms of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, about the initiatives of the National Assembly to confront interference and violence in the country. On a communique, the Venezuelan government expressed, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela rejects in the strongest terms the intemperate statements of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, in which he dares to give his opinion on the legislative initiatives of the Venezuelan National Assembly concerning the regulation of non-governmental organizations and the fight against hate speech and the eradication of fascism and Nazism as political expressions contrary to the constitutional principles. The Venezuelan administration further stated, Mr. Turk takes off his mask and plays the role for which he was appointed at, the bureaucratic post in the United Nations system by the imperialist powers, playing the role of plaintiff against the Bolivarian government and dismissive of the violent riots that attempted against the peace and tranquility of Venezuelans, killing innocent people, setting fire to schools, hospitals, political party headquarters, and public spaces of the community, clear crimes that violate human rights. The text stressed the following. The Bolivarian government is certain that it is not Mr. Turk's ignorance that pushes him to disregard that the vast majority of the countries worldwide in all continents have fostered laws to protect the people from the evils of fascism and Nazism, as well as have pursued an important package of legal instruments to regulate the functions of non-governmental organizations, which in many cases represent obscure interests that seek to twist the welfare of the people over the duty of the states. Finally, the communiqué noted, Venezuela reiterates its call to the High Commissioner to let aside his provocative behavior and approach his responsibilities, to cease his brutal attack on Venezuelan institutions and to take the side of the victims of the far-right violence, as the far-right has tried to inflict damage to the Venezuelan population by using fascist methods. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, warned on Wednesday about a regrouping of the right-wing movement in Venezuela. During his daily morning meeting with the press, the Mexican head of state referred to the statements issued by international organizations about the Venezuelan elections and warned that several countries and the OAS seek to drag Mexico into interfering in matters that only concerned the Venezuelan people. In relation to the electoral process held in the Bolivarian nation, López Obrador reiterated that his government is waiting for the ruling of Venezuela's highest electoral authority before taking a position.
Ahora, por ejemplo, en el caso de Venezuela.
Now, for example, in the case of Venezuela, I don't know if you have noticed that there is a regrouping of the right-wing movement, even the OAS. I don't know if yesterday, did they resolve anything yesterday?
Un reagrupamiento, ¿no?, del movimiento de derecha. Hasta la OEA, no sé si ayer resolvieron algo ayer. ¿No se reunió la OEA ayer?
Didn't the OAS meet yesterday? And what did it resolve? Nothing. The OAS is trying to resolve the same, isn't it?
Por resolver lo mismo, ¿no?, de que ganó uno de los candidatos. Sí, pero están en eso.
If one candidate won, yes, but they are into that. They are even trying to get us involved in that. We already said we are going to wait for the ruling of the electoral authority.
La que resuelva el órgano electoral.
The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, announced the submission of a diplomatic letter to the President of the United States, Joe Biden, protesting the financing of opposition candidates. The head of state considers as an interference of Washington in matters that only concerned the Mexican people the sending of funds to alleged non-governmental organizations, action with which the Mexican president seeks to formalize the request for review of a transfer of resources as donations to a civil organization. Argentina's former president Cristina Fernandez testified before court on Wednesday in the trial for the assassination attempt she suffered in September 2022. Fernandez questioned the failure to present in court the material and financial authors of the aggression against her and affirmed that it was a debt that must be paid with democracy. The former president described the investigation and the handling of the judicial case as a disaster. She was the victim of an assassination attempt on September 1st, 2022 by an individual linked to the extreme right-wing groups who pointed at a firearm at her in the vicinity of her residence.
No, un desastre total y absoluto.
A total and absolute disaster, only with the material authors. They never in general tried the power, because it's not only Dr. Capacchetti, because it would be very unfair. there may be a bad investigating judge. There may be a bad judge of first instance. The problem is when that judge is ratified in the things he or she does wrong by the higher instances, that is when the power needs to be questioned beyond any expressions, which are everywhere and cannot be generalized. The truth is that the attempt to unify the case of the Federal Revolution with the case of my attack was rejected several times when I asked the magistrate in charge of the investigation. It was rejected by Dr. Capaccetti, and Dr. Capaccetti's decision was ratified by the criminal court, which means that it is not only Dr. Capaccetti but also the judiciary.
The Argentinian former president also accused the police of allowing the development of hotspots of violence outside her home after the assassination attempt she was victim of.
The police were very aggressive with the Peronists of the city, or the Kirchneristas, whatever you want to call them, and were very tolerant, almost careful, to protect those who came to hurl insults and offenses at the door of my house. This is how it is. There are testimonies, graphic evidence, not only that, but they also did intelligence work on me as well.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas requested the International Court of Justice to investigate the use of Palestinian civilians as human shields by the Israeli army. Hamas Political Bureau member Issad al-Rishk asked the International Court of Justice to investigate the confessions of Israeli soldiers on the use of Palestinian civilians as human shields to search tunnels and buildings during their military operations in the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian resistance leader referred to a report based on testimonies of soldiers and officers of the occupation forces requesting that they be annexed to the war crimes file for which the Israeli occupation is on trial. It also demanded that international and human rights organizations condemn these crimes and hold the leaders of the Tel Aviv regime accountable. The president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, declared that he will not allow Israel to set the region on fire. The Turkish head of state vowed to hold the Israeli regime accountable for its crimes committed against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The head of state reiterated Turkey's opposition to Israel's attempts to spread the conflict in the Middle East and vowed to fight until the Tel Aviv regime faces the law. The Turkish leader highlighted the invitation extended to the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to meet in parliament in order to strengthen bilateral cooperation with Palestine. The interim Prime Minister of Lebanon, Najib Mikati, stressed the importance of national unity to confront the threats and aggressions of the Israeli occupation forces. Mikati highlighted that solidarity among the Lebanese must be stronger than ever ahead of Israeli hostility. The interim Prime Minister further called on the international community to play a decisive and immediate role in diffusing tensions and stopping the current Israeli aggression. In this regard, the authority insisted on implementing the United Nations Security Council resolutions to immediately reduce or cease Israeli provocative actions, mitigate risks, and safeguard civilians. Greek authorities announced on Wednesday that the recent wildfires, which began on August 11th and tore through 100,000 acres of land, are no longer active, though officials remain on high alert. The fires spread in the north of Athens due to record-high temperatures and strong winds, with blazes breaking out in several towns and villages, including Nea Marki, Marathon, and Pentali. According to local officials, 1 woman died and dozens more people, including several firefighters, were injured. Greece's official fire season began on May 1st and will continue until October 31st. On Wednesday, over 700,000 residents of West and Central Africa continue to be affected by torrential rains and severe flooding. A United Nations briefing reported that this weather phenomena impacted on 746,473 lives from the Central African Republic, Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Liberia, Niger, Nigeria, Mali, and Togo. The report further registered 72 deaths from drowning and 699 injured. Furthermore, over 62,000 houses have been damaged, leaving 54,772 people displaced. Meanwhile, the Central Emergency Response Fund allocated almost $10 million to the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Niger in response to climate emergencies. Tropical storm Ernesto strengthens and causes damage in Puerto Rico, leaving almost 1 million people without electric power. According to authorities, the storm has caused road closures due to flooding, persistent winds, and heavy rainfall, especially on the eastern side of the island. In this sense, meteorologists warned that Ernesto is forecast to strengthen, and it is estimated that within hours it will become a cyclone, which could reach a higher category in a couple of days. In this regard, the authorities mobilized the National Guard, suspended classes in public schools, and sent home those officials whose work was not essential in view of the arrival of the tropical storm. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasting, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. The World Health Organization has declared Mpox an international health emergency. The agency pointed out that the risk of the virus spreading throughout the African continent is a cause for concern. The emergency committee also reported that the number of cases of the virus recorded during 2024 exceeded the figures of 2023. In addition, more than 14,000 cases and 524 associated deaths were detected. It should be noted that transmission of the virus occurs through close contact with an infected person or animal or contaminated objects. On Wednesday, Prime Minister of Pakistan Shehbaz Sharif noted the government strives for inclusive and prosperous economic growth and stability on the 77th anniversary of national independence. Prime Minister Sharif gave a message to the nation on the celebration of its independence, in which he stressed that they will continue to push forward efforts to continue providing positive answers towards the country's economic prosperity. China's Navy hospital ship, the Peace Ark, has arrived in Mozambique as part of its Harmony Mission 2024. During the next 7 days, the ship will provide medical services to local residents. This marks the fourth stop of the Peace Ark on its current mission and its first return to Mozambique in 7 years. Harmony Mission 2024 officials highlighted the significance of this cross-border medical collaboration. Following its mission in Mozambique, the Peace Ark is scheduled to continue its journey to South Africa, Angola, and other locations, extending its medical services to more local residents.
Who never, ever fails to deliver.
On Wednesday, Ice Swimming World Championship is underway at the Calafate city in Argentina as the sport event kicked off on Monday and its closing will be on Sunday. Over 100 swimmers from 14 countries are participating in the competition organized by the International Winter Swimming Association. Athletes are split into age categories from younger than 14 years old to over 90 years old, and they don't wear a wetsuit. Mayra Santos from Portugal won the gold medal in the 100 meters and the silver medal in the 50 meters in the 45 to 49 age category. Earlier, she had set a world record as she has swum for 30 hours, being the longest continuous swim in a contraflow pool. Santos and another competitor shared their views. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.